Hey, everybody. Welcome to a special episode of what we are probably going to call the Plotaholics Do Interviews.
I like that. I like that.
We are already through all of our South by Southwest coverage, and we're moving into some new interviews because we're just really enjoying talking to these creators. And Brian, today we have, I'm really excited to talk to Bill Watterson today, the director and co-writer of Dave Made a Maze. So let's go ahead and bring him in.
Absolutely.
Bill, how are you?
Yes. This just made my day 1,000 times
I'm
better.
sorry, Brian. It appears that we're actually talking to the Minotaur puppet from Dave Made a Maze.
Can you hear me? I don't know how to use this thing.
Yeah. Yes, you're coming through loud and clear.
Right here?
Yep, that's
hello.
Hello. So it looks like you found your way out of the maze. Are you? How are you doing outside?
Life is a maze.
We're never out of the maze, right?
Exactly.
It's just one
Excellent.
maze.
That's right.
This is so
Love
great.
it. Yeah,
Okay.
this is excellent.
It's a little hard on my back.
Bill in the
Yeah,
house.
save your spinal cord, my friend. Save your spinal cord.
Hello. I don't know.
You have an
Real
awesome
puppeteer is
dude
good.
beard going. That is that a normal beard or is that your quarantine beard?
It's a little bit of both. I tend to let it all go long and then get rid of everything all at once.
Oh, okay.
I'm a boomer bust kind of guy.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
See, you just missed Shane's Yukon Cornelius impression actually by about a week or so.
Yeah, I had the full quarantine beard hardcore just until yesterday, actually.
Yeah.
I tend to. I know you're supposed to grow it long when it's cool out, and then shave it when it's hot. And somehow, I can always get that wrong. And I have a big beard whenever it's warm and sunny.
Yeah, I'm a teacher, so I tend to just let mine go when I don't have to be in front of students.
Right, like a playoff beard.
Well, see, I have to be clean shaven so I don't die in my sleep. So.
Well, Bill, look, I accidentally found Dave Made a Maze on Amazon Prime.
That's pretty much how anybody's finding us.
But
how it goes when you don't have an advertising budget.
Yeah, when I read the description, I was like, "This sounds fantastic." And then I looked at the trailer, and I think the thing that strikes anybody, or should strike anybody first, is the artistic design behind this film.
Absolutely.
Could you talk a little bit about just the conceptualization of this maze and how that all came together?
Yeah, gladly. I mean, for even Nick Spoon, when he was out promoting it, he was like, "Well, the main character is the maze," you know.
Yeah. Sure.
That was kind of something we decided early on, and it was in the script. Steven Sears' early draft before I was even involved. It was in the script that it was a cardboard box fort, and there were some really interesting descriptions, not necessarily things that we were able to execute at the end of the day. But right from the beginning, there were really interesting detailed descriptions of cardboard and like stitched cardboard and all these different, box and box formed ideas. So that was there from the beginning. And then, I was lucky enough to work with Trisha Gum. She was the art director over at Robot Chicken, and then she was directing live, starting to direct live action. And I got to actually act in her thesis film for AFI, American Film Institute, directing Workshop for Women. And she's fantastic. And now, I mean, she co-directed Lego Batman and Lego 2. Like she's blown up, which is long overdue. But this is before that. And she knew from Robot Chicken, she knew this cat, John Sumner, who does fine art in cardboard. It's one of his chosen medium. I have a sculpture of his, but I didn't think to pull it out. And the two of them came on as the production designers, and they did a Bible for us. It was just gorgeous, and you could tell from the Bible, like we're going all in. Like as soon as we started seeing the production design drawings, we're like, we got a movie. And then Trish's now husband, Jeff White, came on set. Both of them were too busy. I think Trish with Lego Batman, but both of them were too busy with their jobs to come in and work with us on set. So Jeff White took over as art director and production designer. He did additional production design as well, and he also works in cardboard and found materials. He's just incredibly crafty. And it was a top-down thing. Once people knew that Trish was involved, then Sumner was like, yeah, and people like Trish and Sumner are doing it. I'm doing it. Jeff's doing it. I'm doing it. And there was just this whole team of, a lot of them come out of stop motion, a lot of them come out of puppetry and miniatures and stuff like that. But there was just this whole team of people who, you know, they weren't there because of me. They were there because of Trish and Sumner and Jeff. And once we all got together, Michael Murnane and Lauren Schell, once all these people came on board, there's 100 more names. I'm leaving people out. Once they started coming on board,
to get all of that stuff put together.
Yeah, and then there was tons of volunteers. It was a friends and family affair. The producer and I were driving around all around LA with a cube truck, going to dumpsters and taking donations from friends. And like
that was my next question. Do you have any idea how much cardboard there is in the movie?
He estimated 30,000 square feet. I don't know where that, you know, his mind works in a way that mine doesn't. For me, it was just like, no, it's a lot of stuff. But and a lot of it was
my apartment.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of it was repurposed. You know, Jeff White had a theater background, so he was really good at, you know, flipping walls so that, you know, one face was one room and the back of the wall was the other room, because we didn't have any. We only had room for maybe 2.5 sets at any given time, so everything had to be really modular and movable. So it was just a lot of theater flats that were double-sided and stuff like that. And, you know, the producer was really smart. He called up American Apparel and was like, hey, can we have your cardboard? And we just got pallets of cardboard from them, and specific stuff. Like a lot of it, you know, Sumner drew a lot of it. A lot of it was in the script. Jeff came up with a lot of stuff on the fly. There's one thing in particular, if I think of it, I'll mention later. But a lot of it was, all right, what do we have? Let's make something out of that. I don't know if is it Apollo 13? What's the Ron Howard movie where they're trapped up there and the guy dumps out a box and he's like, this is what we have to work with. Out of this, you have to save the astronauts or whatever. For me, that was always, that's Apollo 13, right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
For me, that was always his metaphor for filmmaking. And that was us. We'd go to a dumpster and be like, all right, well, this is what we've got. What's in the maze, you know?
Right.
So we had those spindles from American Apparel that became the spike bed that swings down. We had the American Apparel had these sheets with the holes in them, like about that size. And at first we were like, we need real cardboard that's got holes in it. And then we're like, well, I'll take it anyway. So we took a pallet of it. And then, you know, Jeff and I were like, can you make a corridor out of these holes and we can punch light through it? There you go. Exactly. Nice. So like it was in the script that they were in an intimate space in a hallway or something like that, or a corridor or something like that. But then that came out of that design came out of what we had. And I was thinking of obviously 2001 or Bespin, you know, for that. And a lot of it was based on what's in the dumpster. Quick build, you know. There
are so many sort of visual, I guess, optical illusions at different times, and there's a lot of just visual stuff going on in this film that is a lot of fun to watch happen whenever they find the kitchen or the dining room in the maze. They're doing a lot of like forced perspective stuff, and even the scene where they're all inexplicably turned into puppets. There's just a lot of really cool visual stuff going on in this film. And you mentioned that you only could have 2 sets up at a time.
Yeah.
So what was the process of filming that? That feels like it would take a lot of time to make sure that you've got the right take and then break that down and then set up the next thing. Yeah,
the process was chaotic, and I still feel guilty for what all the departments had to go through. Because we didn't have 24-hour access to the space. We didn't have the space until 2 days before we started shooting, and we had a hard out at 20 days. So, so there was just no room for. I'd say there's no room for error, but obviously we made a ton of mistakes. But there wasn't a lot of wiggle room. So at the end of the day, we had to have. There was no pickup shoots or anything like that. We had to have the scenes shot out so that we could tear the spaces down and build new ones for the next day. And a lot of the construction, almost all of it, was happening simultaneously while we were shooting. So we're in the maze within the maze. the mini maze, which was also the bedroom, which was also the room with the giant cardboard vagina, same 4 walls. And we finally converted the bedroom. We're shooting out the living room, and we're converting the bedroom into the mini maze. Then when we're shooting the mini maze, they're building the origami swamp 10 feet away, 5 feet away.
That's wild.
Wow. So in between cut and like, it's like, okay, hold the work. And everybody settles down. And we're like, action. We shoot a take. And we're like, cut. And immediately art department.
Back to work.
Buzzsaws, drills, everything back to work 10 feet away. Building.
How long did it take to make all those origamis? How long did it take to make those? That's crazy.
That was a Herculean effort of like pizza parties with friends where we taught them how to fold. I didn't fold a single one. I mean, I had other things going on. Pizza parties with friends, folding stuff. We reached, again, my producers was very smart. We reached out to origami social clubs because a lot of, they get together and they chat and catch up and fold origami, and then they just throw it away at the end of the day. So we pick up bags of origami from them. I think there's some stuff we ordered online that turned out really, that we're glad we did, like when the close-up of the cardboard mouth vomiting origami, there's like stars that shoot out and stuff like that. Those we ordered online. Nice. And then a lot of that is obviously scrap paper and bunched up paper and stuff like that to fill it out. How many,
from the heavy lifting perspective, and all of us who've done anything with cardboard, we've all gotten the dreaded cardboard paper cut. How many of those did you guys run into in this construction and this whole thing?
I made a really inappropriate joke at the Boston Underground Film Festival about like, and I don't know, you have to be very careful these days, but it was basically, you show your tattoo because you survived. We were sort of joking about that the crew was all like that, like, oh man, right there, it's a big cardboard. You know what I mean? Like everybody was just glue gun burns, paper cuts. We were very lucky we never had to bring in first aid. We never had to send anyone to the hospital, which I think we were very lucky for because we were on top of each other. We were in a rush. We were building. We weren't getting to sleep a lot. And then I remember the producer even at one point did a big, like, picked up a bunch of stuff like this and an X-Acto knife, like a box cutter, was like that. And he was like, whoo! And like,
yeah, John Landis was not involved in this production.
But he did email me and tell me that he and his wife loved the movie. It's true. Yeah, it was. We were lucky. I mean, there was a lot. Everywhere you looked, someone was going. But it was almost always hot glue gun.
I want to talk a little bit about like story decisions that you made. I think, and I'm a sucker for anything that's super meta narrative anyway. And
Same.
so
Last Action Hero.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so the choice to not just have this be about a guy that made a maze in his living room and then got lost in it, but to bring in a documentary film crew as a part of like the rescue effort. Right. Can you talk a little bit about the choice to include those characters?
Yeah. Again, in the script from the earliest draft. And Steven was working for a reality TV show. I don't remember which one, but he was logging. Like, they'd watch the dailies and log. And so he heard these hacky off-camera reality TV directors being like, okay, could you do it again? But this time, could you just sit? And you're like, God, get out of the way of the reality.
Yeah.
And, he just had that cadence in his head. And I was actually taking community college film classes here in town, just to throw more tools in the toolbox, because I had never directed a feature. Excuse me. And, like some of the lines from Harry where it's like, you bring a problem to my set, you're here to provide solutions, not problems. Like, those were just catchphrases you hear in like a class about your on-set behavior, which is like, yeah, I've been on set for 20 years. So it just became humorous to me. So some of that was thrown in. But that was on the page. And then you get James Urbaniak, which was the score of a lifetime. I remember celebrating, just jumping up and down in the pre-production build space office when we got James just knowing he was going to crush that role.
Yeah. Everybody in this film does a great job.
I was super excited to see one of my favorite television villains of all time, Warren Mears himself, because I am a huge Buffy the Vampire Slayer fanatic. And I remember hating Adam Bush so much, but I was like, to be such an asshole on TV, you must be the greatest guy ever. And he was probably my favorite character in the movie.
Yeah, he crushes that role. You know, it was a movie about friendship and love, so that they had that best friend relationship had to be there, and he and Nick really clicked. As did Nick and Mira. You know, I didn't have to do any heavy lifting with any of those people. They showed up prepared. I mean, we didn't have a table read. We didn't have rehearsals. Like, if they hadn't shown up prepared, it would have been a train wreck. But they just all came ready. I moved to LA because of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Nice. Indirectly. I mean, I was going through a really rough time, and I was buying the DVDs and watching the commentary tracks, and just the way they talked about community and family and teamwork on that show. I was like, I want to be a part of something like that. And when I was a PA, one of my first jobs, I was working for the Wayne Brady show, and they were like, here, you know, they hand you an address, like, go pick up a thing from the guy. And I didn't know what I was really getting into. The address was to a place called Almost Human. I was like, that sounds familiar. It was the effects house that did, I know they did Angel. I don't know if they did as much Buffy. I think there might have been some crossover. I don't really remember. There was some
crossover, but not a whole lot. They were primarily Angel.
So I walked into this warehouse in the middle of nowhere with this address of just a schmucky PA. And everywhere I looked, there's like, that's the villain from season 5. That's the, you know, like there's Buffy and Angel stuff everywhere. And Rob Hall, I think it is the owner of Almost Human. He was the guy who came out to meet me to give me the thing. I don't even remember what it was. I think it might have been a DVD for a movie that he had done. Hal Sparks was the guest, and he'd been in the movie. Anyway, whatever.
Gotcha. Okay.
Point being, the owner of Almost Human walks out, greets me, sees the look on my face, and goes, "Want a tour?" And I just spent like an hour hanging out. They had just wrapped the show. It hadn't finished airing, but he was done. So he was just showing me all the stuff that was going to show up in the bad guys, and then he gave me an Angel prosthetic because they had hundreds of them. So he was just like, the show's over. So
yeah, that is awesome.
It was pretty great. I mean, you can imagine a PA my first couple months out in Los Angeles. The reason I moved out here, you know, writ large in front of my face, it was pretty special.
So you went to LA looking for this community. Did you find it?
Yes and no. I mean, I certainly found it on Dave Made a Maze. That was a community for sure. You know, but now I feel very much on the outside, banging on doors, being like, "Can I hang out and play with anybody? Does anybody want to play with me? Anybody? Anywhere?"
Well, I think that like the general opinion of like big cities like that is that everybody's just so insular and rude and all of that, you know. But it's interesting to hear, and I mean, there's obviously like a large artistic community in LA, and anytime you get artists together, they're gonna create that kind of supportive circle, you know. And it's cool that you're able to get such a good group of people together to make this film. So tell us about the Minotaur. And really tell us just about maybe in general the choices that you made with the different booby traps and how you staged those things, and like
the cardboard hand,
the
blood as streamers.
Yeah.
Look at the fingernails.
That is some amazing detail. I remember after watching the movie, I'm like, all right, he lost his hand, and now he has that cardboard hand. He's gonna live the rest of his life as the cardboard hand. I love it.
Yeah, it was. You know, it was a combination of things. Certainly, it was a combination of what was on the page. It was a combination of the artists and what they brought to the table. Like Mike Murnane designed and built this. You know, he did this incredible job. Like,
that is amazing.
I wasn't expecting the paint job, you know.
I'm so glad that you saved that stuff.
Seriously.
I wasn't, you know, Sumner put this in the drawing, and I was like, of course he's got a horn. I didn't even think of that. You know, all the torn corrugation for the, you know, that's just expert craftsmanship that I wasn't expecting. He's got this paper here to make it look like hair almost, you know, that goes around the back.
See, I always feel so
Just
jealous of
incredible.
people that can do that. I can come up with that in my head, but I can't draw it. I can't make it. It just lives in this big melon.
Same, and that's sort of the current frustration of being a writer director is, you know, I made a movie like Dave Made a Maze, and everybody assumes I'm a puppeteer and a puppet builder and a fine artist. And it's like, I directed the movie. I didn't production design it. I didn't puppeteer it. I didn't, you know. And so people, when they're like, so what do you just in quarantine? You just making puppet movies instead of? No, that takes hundreds of people.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do that shit.
And it came out 3 years ago. What the hell, man?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's crazy. I mean, to speak about a big lonely city, I love Los Angeles, and I'm lucky enough that I have high school and college friends and a community of people from Cleveland, where I grew up, who are all out here who I knew before coming out here. And I came out here at 30. I didn't come out here at 19 and just get kicked in the face, you know. I still got kicked in the face, but at 30, you're like, my nose already broken. I'm fine. So I can't complain in that regard. I just think, you know, film is very, you know, you get this momentum to make something like Dave Made a Maze, and it just starts making itself, and it takes on this momentum, and people start showing up, and it just feels magical and far beyond any individual. And then the movie's over, and you're like, I'm going to make another movie, and it's 4 years later, and you're like, how do I get that momentum again? You know.
Right.
I do want to.
So that's sort of what I meant about being a little on the outside. But I haven't even answered your question.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
I mean,
the question about just the way that you visually represented death, I guess, is really what I wanted to get at.
Yeah, it was you know, a lot of synergy. I loved what John Sumner did in his drawings. I don't think I have it in my phone, but we put it on our Instagram account. So his drawings of the Minotaur, you know, I think it was his idea that the cape be the blue towel, that he almost embraces the thing that is his weakness, you know, in a way that Dave cannot. Like, his weakness is consuming him, whereas the Minotaur's like, I'm wearing it as a badge.
Yeah.
You know, the buckle, you know, we were definitely referencing the Time Bandits Minotaur that's got the head, and that era. So he's got, and obviously Greco-Roman era. So he's got the cardboard skirt, sort of. I think there might be a D emblem on the belt. I can't remember, but there are lots of little details like that.
Yeah, it looks like that is a D on there. That's something. Wow.
Yeah. And you know, we were lucky enough, Steven, the writer, who's friends with a lot of people in the movie, particularly Scott Narver, the cameraman. Those two guys did a regular weekly improv show with John Morrison, who's now the Miz's tag team partner in the WWE.
Nice.
So that was a phone call. That was like, hey, John, we're making a movie. He's like, cool. Tell me when to be there. You know. So when you got a frame like that, you know.
Yeah, because for a regular
you're
dude,
fine.
He's huge, but in wrestling, he's just like a wiry cat. So you get someone who's not overly huge, but to regular people, that's a big freaking guy. Yeah,
and like the sweetest guy you'll ever meet.
You know, and that's
so
what a lot
friendly.
of people in wrestling too, is that the ones that portray themselves as the biggest jerks are like the nicest guys outside of kayfabe. Like it's like that with the Miz too. Like, he came off as such a cocky jerk on the Real World, and he's like, that's his persona in the ring. But get him outside of kayfabe, he's like the nicest guy ever.
Yeah, and Morrison was the same. He was a joy. He was a joy to be on set. He like wanted to get pictures, and you know, with other actors and people in the crew, and you know, get pictures in and out of costume, and it just he had a blast, which made it a blast for all of us to be able to work with him.
Brian and I both come from fiction, and I'm curious what genre you would label this as. I think it's an important choice that you have him come out of the maze with the cardboard hand still intact.
Yeah.
Because that implies to me, at least, that it wasn't a dream. It wasn't imagined.
Real.
It was all
right.
real.
Right.
Yeah, because Shane and I hate being lied to.
Yeah. And that's why. Yeah. I similarly, that's why the whole movie had to be handcrafted and no CGI, because we're like, it's a movie about an artist. If the movie's not tactile, then we're lying to the audience, and I'm not going to do that. It's not worth making. You know, and even the Minotaur coming back at the end, which is obviously a gag, and I know some people think it's a cheap gag, but for me, in every way, the Minotaur is the sort of answers the last question and this question. The Minotaur is a physical manifestation of all of Dave's doubts and fears and the worst impulses inside of him. So even though he navigates the maze and overcomes his fatal flaw of not being able to finish anything, and it's by finishing the maze that he's able to escape the maze. Pretty standard stuff. It doesn't mean that he's fixed and perfect now.
I mean, every artist is always running from all of that, you know?
Yeah. Or an addict, or someone who's depressed, whatever it is. It's like, you build systems and you figure out ways to cope, but you're not an addict, and that's not to put a scarlet letter on anybody. I mean, that's how you have to think like that. You have to remember that, because otherwise you'll forget and it'll come back out. And that was that's part of why the Minotaur lives at the end, but then also why the Minotaur is dancing with them on the dance floor. And they're like, hey, in the closing credits, because it's like, all right, this is a part of me, but I've accepted it.
Right.
And I've found a way with my community, to deal with it. And that's why the Minotaur is A, alive at the end, and B, embraced in the very end if you follow the credits all the way through. For me, I've always thought of it as a fantasy movie. I mean, obviously I'm coming from a Labyrinth, Goonies, Legend, Neverending Story kind of a place.
And those are all childhood favorites.
Yeah. I actually had not seen Legend or Neverending as a kid, but I did watch it. I did watch them retroactively. But the other ones, Time Bandits.
Neverending Story feels so traumatic to a child. Like,
it really is, man. It killed me as a kid.
Yeah.
Now I laugh at certain stuff, but as a kid, I remember being terrified of the Gmork. And when Artax goes, I'm like, no!
It's rough. It's really rough. I found it jarring even as an adult who had no associations. I mean, I actually remember classmates having the book, but I did not see the film. Although I did laugh harder than I've ever laughed in my life when at lunch, I think it was senior year, junior year, I can't remember. Might have been sophomore year. Someone was like, hey, have you seen Neverending Story? And the other guy goes, nah, it was too long. And then the other guy goes, isn't that still playing? And it was just this like impromptu Mo Curly.
Yeah.
It
reminds me of the bit from The Simpsons. That reminds me of the bit from The Simpsons with Lionel Hutz goes, I still had that class-ending lawsuit against the Neverending Story.
Yeah, the false advertising. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, it's
fantasy. I mean, the horror community has totally embraced us, which saved us and got us on the map. Screen Anarchy, Dread Central, all of
there were some parts of that were pretty unnerving. Like, I started out laughing, and then I started feeling a little unnerved. But Steven's a huge horror guy, way more so than I am. But certainly, we were looking at John Carpenter's The Thing, and Carpenter does tonal mashups. And you mentioned Landis, American Werewolf, like those kind of tonal mashups are in the horror space, but they also have fantastical elements.
Yeah.
It's definitely not a straight comedy. Like if you're going in expecting like a Will Ferrell yuck fest, like you're gonna hate it.
Well, I think that like the genre bending of it is what makes it so compelling.
Absolutely.
To me, that's all my work.
It's not single note. I mean, like if you play the same note for an hour and a half, it starts to get boring. So
right, absolutely.
The tonal shifts in it, I think, help to create such a compelling story.
Right, and it made it feel like the story wasn't rushed through, because that's something lately I've been real on top of, feeling rushed in my experiences. And in this film, just when you start to feel like, all right, where am I going? The tone shifts and it keeps me interested, but I don't feel rushed through.
Right, and what I think is a really good choice is that when the characters stumble into a new part of the maze, they're allowed to breathe in that moment, which allows the audience then to breathe in that moment as well and sort of figure out this new thing that we're going through, which is, I think, a nice choice and a patient choice.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I certainly obviously influenced by Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and I remember Joss Whedon saying something like, there's scary moments, there's hilarious moments, there's slapstick moments, there's heartbreaking moments, there's romantic moments, and that confuses people, but it shouldn't, because that's life.
Yeah, right.
You know, it confuses executives. It confuses. So what is this show? Right. They're like, oh my God, grow
just
up.
Watch it and get it.
How many decades have we had television, and you still can't get out of that stupid thinking? But whatever.
Yeah. Well, that's that's what makes indie film so great, is that you can take the time to tell a story and have your tonal shifts, and it makes it high quality. That's what's beautiful.
And you don't have to sell a development executive on your ability to combine tones. I mean, it's what I do it in all my scripts and all of my work, and I'm always told what a challenge it is. I'm like, it's not challenging for me.
Yeah,
I understand it's challenging for you, and it may be challenged to market, and it may be a challenge for certain audience members. But like, I mean, I've been in meetings with executives, and they're like, "Oh, I don't know. That sounds really hard to combine those tones." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's exactly what they told me about Dave Made a Maze, which is why I'm in your office, because you love the movie. So get over it, and let's make the goddamn thing." You know what I mean?
Don't they realize who they're talking to? Talking to Bill Watterson here, man.
Yeah, well,
Cleveland's own.
I'm the cardboard guy.
I'm the cardboard guy, but I don't do any of my own cardboard work.
I know cardboard guys,
but I can show you some cuts and some burns, my friend.
But it is it's such a compelling movie, and your Twitter, I think this is where I saw this Twitter bio, says that more weirdness is coming.
Oh yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about what is on the horizon for Mr. Watterson?
Yeah, I can. I mean, I've brought back a lot of the core team of the Maze on everything I've done. I've done some things since. Sadly, 2 of them are internal pieces for their like network pitch reels or whatever that aren't available to the public. But I did do 2 music videos. One that was all marionettes with the Bob Baker Marionette Company here in LA for XXT, Jaja Technique. It's a side project for the OK Go bass player and drummer.
Okay.
Although they're their own thing. I don't side project can sometimes have connotations that people don't like, but I don't mean it in that regard. And I did a puppet and miniature cardboardy music video for Greg Feldon, which was a lot of fun. And then I did a piece where I pulled all kinds of influences: Wizard of Oz, a video drum, bunch of cool stuff. For Paul Dini, are you guys comic book guys?
I'm more so than I used to be a real big comic book guy, but I sort of fell out of it in like the aughts, as the kids call them nowadays, because I really got to a point where I would get mad that I would start getting really into the story, and then it's over, and I got to wait a month. I'm like, no,
gotta have it now.
Yeah. So I would seriously, for a time, I would wait until they would make like a particular storyline into a graphic novel and just one big thing, and then get it then.
It's definitely easier that way. I loved it as a kid, waiting every month, but yeah, now I'm like kind of on that kind of time. But Paul's great.
The way that we consume most media now, with the binging and everything, has sort of ruined us to the monthly serial. You know,
we're not a patient people.
No, we're not. We're not.
But Paul's incredibly. I mean, he's huge. He's really, really talented, and I was really lucky that I got to direct something he'd written. He wrote on Lost. He wrote on Freakazoid, and he was sort of one of if not the driving force behind the Batman animated series. He created Harley Quinn in the Batman universe.
Nice.
Well, that's big enough.
And writes for like Arkham Asylum games. He's next level. But I got to do something for him that was really cool, where we got to do puppetry and miniature. It was awesome, but you can't see it. And then I did
what a roller coaster this part of the interview is.
I'm so excited. Oh.
Speaking of things you can't watch, I did a 3-minute teaser just this beginning of this year for a TV show I have in development with the Jim Henson Company and Village Roadshow, which I'm very excited about, which is very, very maze, very magical realist and maze-like. All the fantasy elements and is it real, is it not? You know, all those
realism was the term I was going to use to describe Dave Made a Maze.
Yeah. I've used it before. I think, you know, I may have shied away from it just because I'm so often told how hard it is to sell to make and sell
It's true.
magical realism, and like, so give me some examples, and you give people examples, and like, yeah, but that movie only made this much money, and you're like, all right, I'll stop saying magical realism, because I just want to make another movie, so whatever you want it to be, man, whatever you want it to be, I don't even care.
It's going to still be what I want it to be, but you can call it whatever you want to.
Exactly. Like, all right, who am I talking to? Okay, I'm talking to Shudder. Okay, it's horror. Oh, I'm talking to Lord Miller. Okay, it's fantasy. It's like it doesn't matter. Just let me make the damn thing, because it's great and you're gonna love it.
Yeah. Quit instead of just putting a dollar sign on every single solitary thing. Here's an idea. Just be ready for the quality, and the quality will sell it.
Also, if you're so hung up on money, how come you're wasting so much money in this office? Like, it's like 20 employees that don't need to be here. You got a whole city block, and you just need a desk. If we're really gonna talk about money, let's talk about money, guys.
There you go. There you go. See, that's the East Coast thinking right there.
Exactly. Right. It's hard to be a grounded, practical person in Hollywood. It's just not how it operates. Yeah. So you're hearing a little bit of frustration coming out, but I have written two features since. One is a project that Stephen was also a part of, and one is with a new writing partner set in Cleveland that I love. And then I'm currently writing a third feature, which is very magical realist, all the way in, super fairy tale world. And yeah, it's a weird time for everyone. So I don't know what the future's going to be, or if it's going to shrink even further, and only the Spielbergs will get to make movies because of insurance and everything else. I don't know. But I'm just trying to get the scripts in the hands of people who are going to get it.
Well, eventually they're going to have to trust somebody new, because Spielberg, I don't think, has discovered the secret to everlasting life. I'm
pretty sure he's not, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people are really, really tired of what they're doing with Indiana Jones, or lack thereof. So
yeah, it's kind of part of me. I mean, I'm always happy when somebody gets a job, but I just saw the announcement and I enjoyed Doctor Strange. I just saw the announcement that director is doing Labyrinth 2, and I'm like, wow, you didn't even call me?
Yeah,
well, see, I flipped. We just talked about this on our live show, and I was sort of frustrated. Like, why? Like, do something new, and what are you going to do without David Bowie?
Yeah, if they need another Labyrinth movie, they should just watch Dave Made a Maze.
There you go. And that was the point that Shane made on our live show. Just watch Dave Made a Maze. That's Labyrinth.
Yeah. I mean, I would always rather see somebody make something who loved the Goonies rather than find a way to reboot the Goonies. Someone who loved Ghostbusters go and make something Ghostbusters-like, but that is a new world. I would always rather see that. But it's a corporate-driven, bottom-line-driven industry. So it's like, how do you find a way to? I just watched the latest. I just watched The Rise of Skywalker last night. For the first time. I never even bothered, because I was just sitting.
You probably could have waited longer.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a video game, and it played like a video game. Go get the thing and unlock the thing, so that you go get the other thing. And it's just like you made this movie to sell a video game. I could feel it.
Well, you're talking to the right guy, because I went to go see Shane and I went to go see it at about the same time, because we actually did our biggest podcast to date was our Rise of Skywalker review. And I came in, the super Star Wars fanboy. Oh, I loved it. It was so good. Talking to Shane for about an hour into a 2.5 hour episode. I'm like, this sucked. I'm mad now.
Yeah, I gotta be honest.
Movie so much, but God, I've never been angrier at a director as I am at J.J. Abrams.
It was really bad. I was surprised that I haven't enjoyed many of the new iteration. I loved Rogue One. That might be the only one I've even enjoyed. And I'm a bit jaded, a bit cynical. But the scroll, I was out by the time the scroll was halfway down.
When it started,
the ghost of the what?
Yeah, the dead speak. Like that first line, I'm
thinking to myself, why are you ripping off Romero? No.
Also, it's just like, okay, let's go down the list of who's still alive that was in the original Star Wars trilogy that we can find an excuse to put in the movie. Just tell a story.
Yeah.
Just tell a story. That's the gig. That's the gig. This is a whole universe that lends itself to any kind of story you want. Stop ticking corporate boxes and tell a freaking story.
Absolutely.
And also,
oh man, I love it
100%. And a lot of our coverage in the last little bit has really started to tilt toward indie coverage, because you guys in indie film are just telling such interesting stories without any sort of like a studio oversight, you know?
Right. Well, that's the paradox that makes no sense. Where I remember somebody congratulating me when the film was really starting to win awards and get good, strong reviews and stuff. They were like, "Congratulations, you'll never have that creative freedom again." I'm like, but if having the creative freedom created the thing I'm being congratulated for, why is the next step to take that away? You know,
right? Absolutely. I mean, right here on because I mean, looking at it on Amazon right now. Your customer reviews out of 203 customer reviews, you're 4.3 out of 5. That's amazing. 70%,
really? Oh,
yeah,
great.
70%
I didn't know that.
5-star reviews.
That's great. Well, I mean, one of them is probably mine, but
well, I believe I did one. If I didn't, I'm going to, because
I appreciate that.
My wife and I were sitting there, we're watching this, and it's like, and she's not really. She watches movies because I'm a movie guy. But this movie, she was into it, and even she doesn't do horror at all. But even when it was getting scary, she was still compelled. And it's like, if you got Sharon's undivided, complete attention, when it's not Stephen Amell doing something, you know, he's doing his
shirt off.
Yeah, when it's not Stephen Amell topless or Bon Jovi being Bon Jovi, you've done good.
Well, and it's also certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yes, it is.
That I was really proud of. That I was really proud of. You know, I don't. You can't live or die by critics, and algorithms have taken over the world and ruined it. But you know, I intentionally. I knew I was making a movie that wasn't going to be for everybody. I was like, it's going to get slammed. There's going to be people who 2 minutes in are going to go, "I hate it."
The best art is art that
it's not for them.
Yeah, the best art is art that acknowledges that it's not for everybody.
Yeah,
right. I'm not, you know, without being, you know, I tried to talk about things that were. I tried to be very specific in order to talk about things that were very universal, but at the same time, with a distinct voice. And there were certain points in the script where I was like, "Well, here's where we're going to leave some people behind," and then I was like, "Fuck them," you know. I mean, they don't have to come. They don't have to come on the whole journey. It's fine. Yeah. This is the journey. If you don't come on it, it's fine. It's fine.
And honestly, I feel like one of those moments is probably the puppet moment, and that was for me when I'm like, okay, yes,
yeah,
you know,
right.
That was a perfect point. For some awesome ridiculousness.
Yeah,
it was amazing, and it was absolutely amazing.
That was not in. That's my favorite part. My favorite part to shoot. That was not in the original script. We were screening the rough cut, and you know, for all the department heads and some close friends, and we kept being like, "All right, we're excited. We got a solid B here, but I know we can do more."
Yeah.
And because the film is so modular, you know, in terms of its actual geography, you go down here, you pop up here, you go in here, and you shoot down here. We knew we had an opportunity. They go down the fly, because originally in the cut they go down the gift, the basket, the Mary Poppins gag, that purple thing back there, the gift. They go inside that, and then they came down the slide in our original cut. We're like, I know we can do more than that. So we talked about the Looney Tunes gag, because that's simple, just the pipes like bang, 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 you know,
right.
It's a miniature. And then Sumner, the production designer, his biggest regret was that he couldn't be with us on set. So he's like, let me do this. So he, you know, obviously we wanted to have more puppetry. We wanted to have more playfulness and whimsy. So we came up with the puppet idea, and he's like, I want that. And he built and designed every single puppet for the cast. It was really awesome. And we did the gag. I mean, it's probably obvious, but the walls are on rollers. So the puppeteers are just standing still and the walls are moving. We had friends of ours. I call them PAs, but they're like, some of them were like famous actors, like rolling these rolling walls behind us. You know, all stuff we just picked up all made out of stuff we got at Home Depot and threw together. But that was super fun.
It definitely felt big. Like it never felt like you were just shooting in one room and then moving to another room to shoot. While it felt big and it felt connected. So
yeah, because I felt like I'm in this labyrinth. I feel like just seeing that big, huge fort in the middle of the living room, and it's just like, the hell's that? I'm stuck in a maze.
Well, and I love that like the entrance to the maze is also pretty elaborate. Like, I like that you didn't go like super simple on the outside, and then when you get in, because like even the entrance is pretty intense.
Yeah, that's part of it. It's like, okay, if Dave is just a really hacky artist, it's harder to have empathy for him. But if he actually has real skill, like you see Gordon walk in and he's like, oh man, he did it. He really did it. He did the thing he said he was going to do. Yeah. And you see, it had to be cool enough that you would believe that it might be magical. Yeah. But it also had to be special enough that Dave, as an artist, is like someone you could root for. You're like, this guy's really talented. Even if he's limited, he's really talented.
All right. Well, we are going to go ahead and let you go, Bill. Anybody interested in Bill can check him out at Bill Tweederson on the tweet machine. And
terrible gag.
I love it. I love it. That's very Cleveland of you.
One of my favorite bits is how you've decided to do all of your social media stuff for Dave Made a Maze. Is Dave made a tweet? Is Dave made a video for Vimeo?
Forgot about that one.
Yeah, Dave made a fan page for Facebook.
That's some great marketing material, man.
Yeah, our LLC is Dave Made an LLC. That was the company, the company we formed to.
I love
it.
We got to get a Dave Made a Brian Tan book into a movie.com.
Yeah, for sure. Although I'm the one that writes magical realism, so
that's true. That's true. I do sci-fi, action, and urban fantasy, where Shane does the surreal realism and the fantastical awesomeness.
Yeah,
I love my Cleveland vampire movie.
Oh yeah. Well, my vampire book takes place mostly in Pittsburgh, but he has to go through Cleveland to get there because he's coming from the West Coast. So,
well, you got to go through hell before you can get to heaven.
That's a good point by you. Yeah, but you still at some point you got to swim through sludge, get up to Lake Erie.
That's a fact.
I love some gentle Pittsburgh versus Cleveland ribbing.
Well, see, this is how it's done when you're not on Twitter and you like can respect each other. It gets 1,000 times worse, like especially when people from Cleveland come to Pittsburgh for Steeler games or vice versa.
So bad,
ugly,
so bad.
But I
gotta tell you, I've been to Pittsburgh, gorgeous city, and you guys got great civic leadership. You found a way to boom out of your bust. We're just in a cycle where we just can't quite. We lack some original thinking on the civic leadership level.
It's like your football teams are like microcosms of the greater city.
Right. And I wish Cleveland would match it, because the thing is, Cleveland and Pittsburgh, at least in my 41 years on this planet, have always fed off each other. So when one thrives, the other thrives. And when one goes stagnant, the other one starts to slowly descend in that as well. And I think that's part of the reason why our towns are always so at each other, is because we feed off of each other.
Right. I guarantee, I'm sure in downtown Pittsburgh, someone did not spray paint "Cleveland sucks" graffiti, but in Cleveland they spray paint "Pittsburgh sucks." It's like, well, yeah, you just spray painted the ugly graffiti. Like you,
it's like way to go. You just proved our point.
Exactly. It's like, come on, guys. Come on.
Yeah, there's never the only bit of anti-Cleveland anything is done in sports talk radio. That's it.
I'm sure.
That is it. And then during this last season, the whole Myles Garrett, Mason Rudolph thing, it went on and on and on, and they're still talking about it in some instances. It's like, all right, enough.
Well, they don't
I'm sure
to talk about right now.
Yeah, that's right. There's nothing else in sports to talk about.
Content about content. Yeah, about things that happened ages ago. That's all we got.
Yeah. So, but you guys got Odell Beckham, so it's all good.
I keep forgetting that, to be honest with you. It's like when the Cavs got Sean Kemp. I was like, wait, we really have Sean Kemp? I mean, we got out of shape doesn't invest in his career anymore, Sean Kemp.
Yeah.
we really have Sean Kemp? Is that possible?
It's almost like watching basketball where it's like LeBron James showed up to Cleveland, then left, came back, and then left again.
Right.
No one in Cleveland seemed to notice.
Well,
but no, Cleveland's an awesome town. It's
I love it.
It's basically Pittsburgh, just 100 miles away. You've got the same blue collar mentality and that same work ethic and the same civic pride. You know, we love our areas. It's just that we're 100 miles apart. That's it.
Yeah. You'd think it would be a reason to connect, but that's not the world we live in.
Nope. Sadly, no.
It is not.
But you know what, Bill? You and I can get it started.
That's right.
Hey, let's lead by example.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the Plotaholics building bridges.
Well, Pittsburgh has more than enough, so we'll just build a bigger one.
There you go.
Nice one.
There you go. Well, Bill, thanks so much for talking to us. We will let you get back to your quarantine.
My pleasure. My pleasure. It was a nice break in the routine.
And everyone watching, go to Amazon Prime right now. Watch Dave Made a Maze, and you're welcome. And matter of fact, and we have Shane Wilson to thank, because if Shane Wilson hadn't brought this to my attention, and I was like, Shane, we have to talk to these guys. We have to. And Shane's like, I'm on it.
So yeah, in fact, I reached out to you, Bill, on Twitter while I was in the middle of watching it the first time.
Oh wow!
I was like, I've got to talk to this guy. It's because it really is unlike anything else that I've ever seen, and it's
probably the most original film that I have seen.
And I think that original stories should be celebrated. So thank you for making what you made, and and I look forward to the next weirdness.
Absolutely, and thanks to everyone that worked with you as well, man, because it was a group effort, a communal effort. Thank you.
Always have to shout out the team. The director gets way too much credit. When you're building a world, that takes an army.
For sure.
So thank you for acknowledging the soldiers in the army.
Absolutely. Thank you, Bill. We will we'll have to have you back when your next feature comes out, or when
I'd be honored,
or
whenever you just feel like shooting the shit.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, seriously. I can talk movies. I can talk movies all day.
Love it.
All right.
Thank you, Bill. We'll talk to you again soon.
Take care.
See you, gentlemen. Thank you.
We're the Plotaholics, ripping plots apart for you.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.